And of course, with Springhill Lake Elementary School specifically, we are anxiously awaiting to have that facility rebuilt. It's inadequate. It's not serving the needs of young people. It's I don't want to say hazardous, but we've got to do something. We've got to do something about that school, and I know it's in the plan.
Sure.
Do you have any updates for us on that one?
Absolutely. Dr. Coleman will dive in with his team. And
Yes,
share
thank you
some
for that. And we did bring team members to address that particular piece. I'm going to call up our Director of the Office of Alternative Infrastructure and Planning and Development, Mr. Matlock. He is our Director of our P3 program, of which Springhill Lake is a part. The P3 is focused on 2 phases. The first phase was delivered successfully with the opening of 6 brand new schools in Prince George's County, and phase 2 encompasses 8 schools, one of which will be the new Springhill Lake. Mr. McLeod, you want to give a little detail around where we are with Springhill Lake and the P3, and then talk a little bit about the CIP and where Eleanor Roosevelt falls in that list.
Welcome. It's nice to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate you all.
Try that one.
Try this one. There we go. All right. So thank you for having me here, having us all here. Basically, we have a comprehensive plan that was developed in 2017. I noticed some of the notes that you had from your previous meeting, and I know there were some references to 2004, which is a lifetime away, obviously a generation away. But in 2017, we came up with a plan that was implemented through our EFMP that basically split the schools into 4 cycles total, but 3 effective construction cycles, the first of which we're in and has 31 schools. And most of it was concentrated in the north, but we had a lot of schools that we were planning to do centrally and south. And so of that program, the first one of the schools that was done through the P3 was Kenmoor, which is right on the border here. And so what's going to happen long term is we know that Dora Kennedy is at the old Greenbelt Middle School. And that building is also not in great shape, as we know. So what we'll probably, and what I think the general plan right now is to move Dora Kennedy at some point, because it is a school that draws from around the county, to the old Kenmoor school building that is now vacated. And then what we'll do is temporarily swing Springhill Lake while we're constructing their new building into the old Greenbelt Middle School. And the reason for that is it allows them to retain themselves as walkers. It's just down the street, and so it doesn't require a major shift in the way the school will operate and how transportation will work for the students that attend that school. And then we'll be tearing down Springhill Lake and rebuilding it. The plans are now being worked on now for that. We're working on the site plans and everything for all the 8 P3 schools that are going into the second tranche of schools. And then we'll be constructing a larger and more modern Springhill Lake school. And we're also trying to build bigger, and we're trying to build more efficient. What you'll find is the new schools that you're going to get in this area will be more resilient. There will be, we're looking at geothermal and solar for the primary power usages in those buildings. The designs are far better because we know more about schools, so you're going to get better acoustics, better daylighting, better air transfer, better all those things. So those are the things that we're working on.
Yes, Ms. Pompey and then Mr. Roberts.
A few questions about the plan for Springhill Lake Elementary School, specifically about the swing space plan. The first thing is, I think that, I believe construction time for the new Springhill Lake Elementary School is slated to start in 2026. Is that right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be delivered in 2028.
Okay.
And so, yeah, construction will take roughly 2 years.
Well, I just think that it's really important. If you're going to be moving those DKFI families, you need to start talking to them right now. I mean, I know it's 2 years, but that's really not very long for these families. There have been problems in this county in the past with swing space transitions not being clearly communicated, being communicated too late. So you need to get on top of that as soon as you can. And even swinging our Springhill Lake kids into the what is now DFKI. I mean, especially the population at that school, it's going to take a lot of work on your part to make sure that these families understand what's happening, that they feel comfortable and safe with their kids going to that school. I would suggest doing tours of that school so families can see where their kids are going to be. And then my other concern is really just that that building that DFKI is in right now is not in great shape. I mean, there are serious infrastructure problems in that building. There are buildings with no air conditioning, buildings with no heat. There are many water fountains that don't work in that school. So I just want to make sure if we're moving more kids into that school that we are addressing all of those infrastructure issues in that building before we're putting more kids in it, because I don't want to take kids out of an old crowded building and put them into an old deteriorating building. You know, they need to be in a good safe space for those 2 years.
I understand what you're saying. And so as far as the communication piece is concerned, we have a group that's helping us with the communication piece. We have had at least one meeting with the community so far about what we're going to be doing, but we haven't gone into a lot of detail. We just told them, well, look, new school's coming. There's going to be some adjustments. At one point, we were thinking about moving them to Kenmoor, but then we realized that would create difficulties for the parents for as far as transportation and things like that. Now, you have to understand something, and I want to be clear. We're not going to do a whole lot at the old Greenbelt Middle School at Dora Kennedy. And the reason is we just don't have a lot of the resources. As soon as those students are out of the building, we're probably going to demolish that building and do something else with that old building. So we're not going to put a lot of money into it.
Can't tear down our
Thomas,
original
just one
high
moment.
school.
Well, what I'm saying is when we're looking at what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to green space as many buildings as we can in order to save on maintenance costs and the cost of operating those buildings. And so when you're thinking long-term system-wide, that's what we're thinking about right now. And so we're not trying to put a lot of money into structures that we know we're not going to house populations. But there will be some updates, but it won't be significant updates.
Mr. Roberts?
Well, I have a question, but first I want to say that the original, the school you're talking about, the original Greenbelt High School, is a historic building in Greenbelt. And I personally don't want you even thinking about tearing it down. When it's in good condition, it's a beautiful building. And it's original with the city, and it's an important building for the city. So maybe you want to think about, trading it, giving it to the city or something where we can use it for maybe another use, or maybe it can be another school or whatever it is. But not only that, I don't think you should be tearing down schools. We went through that, about 30 or 40 years ago. And then as soon as they got tearing them all down, they realized, oh, we need more schools. So then they didn't have enough schools. So that's a folly, I think. But wait a minute.
That wasn't your question. Okay.
The main question I wanted to ask was the new Springhill Lake School. Is that being planned as a single story, 2-story, or how are you planning that? Because you're talking about being efficient, and if you use the old models that I've seen, like we have up in North End, you end up with this big building that takes up all the open space around, and the kids don't have playing fields and things like that, which is an important part of the school.
A lot of the new models that we're dealing with right now have to be in compliance with our climate change action plan, which is a plan that's intended to build resiliency. So we are going to try and preserve as much green space around Springhill Lake Elementary School as possible. The other thing that we're going to do is it is a 2-story build, and it's designed around, again, the resiliency issues, the educational daylighting issues. So it's going to be spaced in a way that gives much daylighting into the classrooms as possible. So the design itself and the site plan is intended to create as much space around the building and preserve as much green space as possible. It's part of the climate change action plan. To your other comment, one of the things that best way to describe this, I'm personally am not a preservationist. That's not really what I'm trying to do.
Obviously.
Right. What we have is a lot of schools and a lot of buildings that need to be updated. And when every dollar that you don't put into the maintenance of a school that has housing kids, that's children without adequate water bottle fillers, without good HVAC, without all the things that everybody's asking us to put into these buildings. There are a number of schools that have children in them that need new HVAC systems. There are a lot of places, schools, that we want to do things for the students that we need to have the money to do. Preserving or maintaining buildings that we know we don't need currently, even if we were going to put new students back into a school building, we'd want to build a new school building for those students to go into. We wouldn't want to put them into an old building if possible. So we're trying to do the very best we can to modernize the infrastructure as much as we can. And there are a lot of uses that we're looking for the buildings that we do have. And like I said, the decision about what eventually happens with the school is well above my pay grade. I'm just talking about, from a planning standpoint, what looks like we're making sense from a planning standpoint.
Well, I just
have
hope
to,
you,
tell
I
you,
just hope you work
it's
into
a
your plans
revelation.
that there are people in Greenbelt that are really going to object to that. There is an addition on the back that probably wouldn't mind seeing go, but the main part of the building.
So to me, it's a revelation to hear the proposal about moving Dora Kennedy, and because originally when the middle school, before the middle school was built, that was the plan. The school was going to actually tear down the Dora Kennedy or the old Greenbelt High School. So at that time, the city formed a task force and actually put a lot of thought into possibly taking over or doing some other things with the original part, not the addition. So based on what you're saying, would Dora Kennedy move back to Greenbelt at some point?
No. So originally, Dora Kennedy was up in near Bowie. It was, gosh, I wish I could remember the name of the school. I use it all the time. Robert Goddard. So they were co-located with the Montessori school at Robert Goddard. That wasn't the most ideal mix of cultures. When they had the opportunity to come down here to Greenbelt, they jumped at that opportunity to go into the new school there. What we're offering them is another school that's even more modern from a physical standpoint than currently it is at there. And so we would be moving. Originally, we were thinking about swinging and swinging back to a newer building, but right now we're thinking of moving them permanently to Kenmoor, and then just using Greenbelt, the current Robert Goddard School, as a swing space for Springhill Lake. After that, like I said, then we would be looking at what would be the next uses of that school. I know what I would do, but that's not my decision.
Right, this would happen in 2025, 2026?
So they would swing around 2026, and then everybody would be, Springhill Lake would move back into its new building in 2028.
Ms. Pompey?
I just want to say that I think children having working heat and air conditioning and water, I don't think those should be considered major reservations. I think those are just that's the bare minimum that we should be giving our students to be in a habitable school. So I really do hope that those updates will be made before you swing any kids into there.